Okay, let's start off by masking off some of this stuff. You've got to mask off a few bits and pieces to make sure you don't get paint in the wrong places. And if I mask off the cockpit, then it means I won't get paint in the interior. So attach that to there. And then let's give it a nice starter coat of just a basic sort of metallic silver. The Razor Crest is kind of almost like a mirrored silver, but I don't want that on mine. I quite like mine to be sort of a metallic-y silver, just so it doesn't quite show up the 3D print lines that you get on a 3D print. Okay, with that done, let's sand down all the masking that I put on the bottom here. Remember to wear a mask when you do this, because you don't want to breathe this crap in. And just quickly spray the seats. And there we go. It's looking a bit bland, so let's print some Greeblies. What are Greeblies, you ask? Greeblies are little bits of model kits which in the 70s and 80s they used to stick on to models that they used to use when they did sort of ship filming or spaceship filming or tank filming. You get an Airfix model and you nick all the good looking bits and glue them all over your models to make them look really, really cool. While those are printing, let's dry brush some of the leather on the seats to make it look a little bit more textured. I've used a dark black here, now I'm using a light grey to bring up the details. There we go. And paint the tips of the guns as well. Just gives it a little bit more interest than just having it pure silver. Right, okay, inside of the Razor Crest there are wall panels on this 3D print. It's got guns on it and it's got some of the netting. I know in the Hasbro version they've actually got real netting on here. I don't have any real netting, so I'm going to use the 3D printed wall panels. So I just go over these with a nice light silver. I'll then dry brush it with a lighter silver and then I'll wash it with sort of a dirty oily black. And I'll paint the netting with sort of a beige colour, and that should come out quite nicely. With that done, I can stick these into the side. They just adhere to the either side of the Razor Crest interior, and it gives it a nice little bit of interest in the interior of the spaceship. Now let's place these Greeblies. These are all bits that I printed off. There's some great stuff in Thingiverse where you can actually, instead of buying model kits which get expensive when you're actually trying to find Greeblies, you can actually print off model kit bits which people have actually scanned and put onto Thingiverse. So this is absolutely great. Links in the description below for several great files full of Greeblies. And yeah, if you use these on your 3D printed spaceships, it just makes them look so much more interesting. We've got hatches here, we've got vents, I've got sort of bits of loose mechanics, I've got valves and all kinds of wonderful stuff. Yeah, these come out really, really nicely. And I'm going to attach these using the 2-part 5-minute epoxy which I used in the other video to glue the whole thing together. Greebly placement is important, so basically concentrate on where you want to put them first before you start gluing, just so you can get them all in the right place, and don't put them uniformly. It's Star Wars, so everything's a bit crap and broken, so just put them wherever you feel they sit best. Don't worry about, oh, I've got one on this side, I have to have one on that side. You don't. Just chuck them on wherever you think they look good and where you think they might actually serve a good purpose. With the Greeblies attached, it's time to start painting the interior. Let's start with the buttons on the dashboard. I want these sort of like random different colours. And then we're going to paint the screens black, and I can then put some details on those with white and green later on. But yeah, start doing a nice base grey, and then I'll do some washes over top of that, and then I can start painting on some Arabesh or whatever language I decide to stick on here. Don't worry about being too neat here. You're going to basically do the edges later on and you're going to wash over it as well. So that'll be fine. Now, second batch of Greeblies, because you can never have too many Greeblies. I'm just going to paint these directly without spraying them. I'm going to paint them with a darker wash. They turn up and they show up better. And I'm going to glue these to the sides. You'll notice that I've done them in a darker silver, so they actually show up much, much clearer on the sides of the Razor Crest, because they sort of stick out. I'm then going to wash the whole thing as well and fill in all the cracks and crevices with another darker wash, like so. I'm using a wash called Null Oil here from Citadel Paints. Then while that's drying, I'll paint the silver knobs on the dashboard. And now it's time to do some proper washing. So yeah, just get in there with the black Null Oil and just let it all get into the cracks and crevices, and then wipe off the excess with a bit of kitchen towel. This will really bring up the details. You can see basically those cracks and mould lines turning up really nicely once I've filled them with the black ink. And then that'll dry, and you can either do another coat if you want to, or you can even change over to a dirtier coat if you want to, maybe sort of a brown to basically make it look even more sort of rusted and used. Be careful you don't put too much on here, and if you do put too much on, just wipe it straight off, because otherwise you'll end up with drip lines, and you'll end up with ugly looking stripes and ugly looking places where the wash has washed off and left sort of striations down it. You want to get rid of those, unless you fancy basically having oil leaks on it, which might actually work quite nicely. It's up to you. But yeah, I'm wiping all of this stuff off after I paint it on, just leaving the stuff in the lines. And then I'm going to go over with a thin brush and paint in all the lines as well, just to make sure it's got in everywhere I want it to. Right, with that done, it's time to highlight a few panels to make them stand out. I'm going to mask off a few of these sort of triangle bits, and I'm going to cover them with a wash which is called Agrax Earthshade, or Agrax Earthshade, I can't remember which one, but it just makes it look nice and dirty and stand out. That one I've done lightly. This one I'm going to do a lot darker, and just use a bit of cloth, use your finger or whatever you prefer, and just rub it all in to make it look like it's an extra bit that's added on, or perhaps a dirtier piece, or a place where basically something's been damaged. This adds a point of interest which the human eye finds quite appealing. Psychology, but yes. Right, okay, with that done, it's time to start painting the engines. I've done a dirty bronze on here, and then I'm doing a dark wash on the end of it to look like it's burnt out, and I'm going to go over the whole thing with Agrax Earthshade. Okay, with the exterior out of the way, let's have a look at the interior. I've run some lights across here inside the interior so you can actually see a bit better. I will hot glue those in later, but at the moment I've just used a little bit of tape to hold them in place. And yeah, you can see all the lockers either side on here where all the guns are kept. You've got the doorway through to the cockpit there, and you've got Grogo's little bunk there as well. The floors are all sort of done in a really nice industrial grating as well. And you've got the panels either side that are printed for the inside. You've got the guns and the netting either on both sides, left and right. One side has lots and lots of netting, the other side has sort of guns and some more lockers as well, so that makes the interior look a lot nicer. And yeah, I'm especially pleased with the way that the doorway through to the cockpit gives you sort of this lovely through feeling all the way from one end of the ship to the other. Now the side doors open as well. These just pop down like so, and they've got little struts either side that hold them in place. And yeah, once again you can see into the cockpit, into the bunk, and down the length of the ship as well. And finally we've got the cockpit, so we just open the cockpit there, and you can see the controls there on the front, and you've got the pilot ship, and you've got Grogo's little seat there at the back as well, and there's a little light there I've put as well to light the cockpit up. There's also lighting underneath the dashboard as well. So yeah, very happy with the way this has turned out. Let's give that a close, and let's have a look over the entire exterior of the ship and see how we've done. Okay, so this turned out rather well. I am so pleased with the way that this looks, the way that it's printed. It's just absolutely great. It's so Star Wars. It's amazing. I mean, I love this model, just the way that the cockpit all opens up. You've got the guns at the side. It's just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. I love the huge engines on the side of the Razor Crest. I mean, these things look like they belong on a World War II aeroplane. Just imagine the power you must get out of these things. It just looks... It doesn't look aerodynamic. It just looks like it forces its way through space just using nothing but the power of these two engines. Let's give this a flip over. The landing gear folding in is great. The front leg basically folding into the box underneath the cockpit, and the two back legs just clipping in and having just concealing themselves underneath the two flaps, which are basically also the feet. Yeah, this thing is absolutely wonderful. I love folding this back down. You look down there, I can see I've put the lights in there, but also you get light from the front because that corridor runs the length of the ship all the way into the cockpit. And yeah, you can basically just put sort of figures or carbonite chunks. So I'm going to print myself out a few guys in carbonite later. I'm going to have those in the back as well. And the side doors fold out as well, just giving you access to the cockpit, the bunks, and all the gun lockers. It's just so versatile and such an incredible design. Yeah, I can't rave enough about this. I have loved painting it. I have loved building it. And yeah, I've got a lot out of this particular project. I hope you guys have as well. Let's fold this up and have a look at the top. And yeah, I mean, look at it. It's got all the Greeblies on there. I mean, Greeblies are great. I love the idea of this just kit bashing old World War II tanks and aeroplane models and just gluing them onto spaceships to make them look even more amazing. I mean, you take anything out of context and it can look really futuristic, amazing, and sort of incredible. I mean, Aliens and a few other sci-fi movies I know have used all kinds of weird things. Like, I think one of them used fast food containers as panelling just purely because it just looks so good. And taken out of context, it doesn't look like a fast food container. It looks like futuristic panels. I think George Lucas and Lucasfilms came up with the word Greeblies. And yeah, I absolutely love the word and I could use it. I've used it about 1,000 times in this video already. It's one of my favourite words in the English language. Is it in the English language? Well, it should be if it's not. So yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for bearing with me on this 150-hour print. Stay happy, stay safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Keep printing.